Hello and welcome back to the Wasteland, everybody. Welcome back to Fallout, where today we're going to be going over the top 10 craziest perks throughout Fallout's history, at least in my opinion. And I didn't really know how else to kind of quantify these, because these aren't really in any particular order, as well as they're throughout all the different Fallout games. And this isn't crazy as in terms that they're super broken, some of them are, but just kind of crazy that they were added to Fallout in the first place. And some of them have been around for a very, very long time. So let's hop right into this with our number 10 spot being Drunken Master. This one is actually from Fallout Tactics, and this one I really like the idea of. It's kind of funny to weaponize drunkenness in games anyway, and I do always like the idea of trade-offs in games anyway. You get something for having something bad happen to you. Now the funny thing is, in Tactics' case with Drunken Master, this perk is actually bugged and doesn't do anything because it doesn't trigger. So this one is supposed to give you 20% more unarmed whenever you're under the influence of alcohol. The main problem is there's no way to actually get under the influence of alcohol in Tactics. I think it's just coded differently to where it just can't trigger. The idea of this perk I think is hilarious, making your unarmed much better, but you're getting drunker, so naturally you can't see as well, or at least that's probably how it would work if you were playing this in first person, whereas in Tactics, getting drunk doesn't really matter, because it's, you know, top-down, turn-based, or it can be turn-based, it could be real-time mode too, but it doesn't really make it so like your character stumbles or goes where they're not supposed to or anything like that. It's just something that would basically give your character bonus unarmed, which could be pretty good, but it would be kind of funny to see this perk come back into the first-person Fallout games and getting some sort of bonus from this, and of course you could always be under the influence of different chems as well, and kind of tie this all into one perk, because there is another perk in Tactics, it's called like Flower Child, which gives you longer duration under chem effects, so they've always kind of had these things in the Fallout games, but it would be really funny to see this one come back. Coming in at number 9, we have Cancerous Growth. This is another Fallout Tactics perk. This one just pretty much gets on here for name alone, because having a perk that gives you a cancerous growth does not sound good, although this perk is actually surprisingly good. This is a level 6 perk that requires less than 7 strength, and only ghouls can have it. That is kind of a bonus for Tactics, is that the different races can also have their own perks to them, as well as their own traits as well. And with this, you actually get faster healing rate, and you can heal crippled limbs. So there's really nothing but an upside for taking cancerous growth. It's just kind of insane that Cancerous Growth is even a perk, and let alone that it's a bonus in-game. It's not some sort of horrible status effect that you could get. Like, if you're exposed to too much radiation, you develop a Cancerous Growth. In Fallout 2, there's kind of a thing that does this, where if you're running around through the toxic caves, and you don't have, like, the rubber boots on, or I think power armor, then there's just a chance that you could grow an extra toe, which doesn't actually do anything, you know, bad for you. There's also been kind of references to this in the later games, like in Fallout 3 onwards with the goat test, where one of them was like, a new arm has sprouted out of your stomach, what do you do? So it would be kind of funny to see different things like this actually affecting your character throughout the Fallout games. There is kind of that in 76, I've heard, with like you being able to turn into a ghoul and turning even into a feral ghoul. But it's still kind of funny that Cancerous Growth was ever a perk in the Fallout universe. Coming in at my number 8 spot, we've got Them's Good Eating. This one is a Fallout New Vegas perk, and this one was added in Old World Blues. This one's a level 20 perk that requires 55 survival, and what this one allows you to do is that it allows every living creature that you kill, there's a 50% chance that they can either have thin red paste or blood sausages when looted. So this one definitely plays heavily into the survival aspect of Fallout New Vegas, where it could get you potentially, at least if you're reading this, more food, but these actually don't really count as food. These are actually some of the best healing items in the game, which is kind of crazy, because this perk does not seem that great on paper. Just getting extra supplies when living things dies doesn't really sound that incredible, given that so many of the living things that drop anything, let's say like coyotes, they can only really drop their hides, which aren't really worth anything. The only thing you can do is turn them into belts, and even then they're not really used for that many recipes, nor do they really sell for that much. But thin red paste and blood sausage legitimately breaks the economy in New Vegas. Like, these things are worth a ton, as well as just because it has a 50% chance of dropping one or the other, or at least that's how it seems on paper. That doesn't mean it can't trigger multiple times on the same enemy, so you can get things like 3 red paste, 3 blood sausages per creature that you kill. And if you stack these, they make it so your healing is really good, generally better than like stim packs, or at least on the survival difficulty or the hardcore difficulty. And on top of that, they can actually be upgraded into thick red paste and black blood sausage, which gives you even better healing. So yeah, if you just want to break the economy with a pretty normal sounding perk, like Them's Good Eating is actually surprisingly good. I was debating on whether putting this or Radchild up here, because both of them are deceptively not great on paper, at least looking at them, but they are shockingly good in the game, where they are incredibly powerful, and it just doesn't really seem that way. And sticking with New Vegas, our next perk here at number 7, we have Sneering Imperialist. This one you get unlocked at level 8, and it doesn't require anything. This is an Honest Hearts perk, and this one gives you 15% more damage and 25% more accuracy whenever you're trying to attack various tribals or raider characters. Now, that's not really the crazy thing about this perk. The more crazy thing about this perk is all the various dialogue options that you get, where you can just kind of weaponize xenophobia towards enemies, and that's pretty funny. It's just kind of apt that it's in Honest Hearts, where you are dealing with a bunch of tribals, although tribals have always been throughout the Fallout games. Even in Fallout 1 they've been there. In Fallout 2 you are a tribal, that's where you start out. So it's kind of funny that we get a perk directly for fighting people like that, and just the dialogue options alone kind of put this one pretty high up here. So it's definitely worth a try if you've never taken this perk before. Coming in at number 6, we actually do have just a straight up overpowered perk, but I do like the way that it was implemented in the game. So for this we have Grim Reaper Sprint. Now this is particularly the Fallout 3 version of Grim Reaper Sprint, because this was toned down in the later games. In New Vegas and 4 it got nerfed pretty heavily. So Grim Reaper Sprint was actually a fan-made perk that actually just won a contest to be put into the game. And there was actually a lot of really cool perks that were thought of for this contest, but most of them weren't really like balanced at all. Grim Reaper Sprint is a prime example of this. This was a level 20 perk and it didn't require anything in Fallout 3. And what Grim Reaper Sprint did is that whenever you kill an enemy in VATS, it refunds all of your VATS points immediately. So you can trigger this multiple times and just chain it together. And VATS was actually really, really strong in Fallout 3, so taking Grim Reaper Sprint was kind of a no-brainer if you were going with a VATS build, or even a build that kind of liked VATS, or if you were just a player that kind of liked VATS. There was basically no downside to it, and it got even better once Broken Steel was added into the game, since that raised the total level cap from 20 to 30, so you could actually pick multiple of the level 20 perks that were pretty good. And like I said, in later games it did get toned down. In New Vegas, it only refunded like 20 action points back to you whenever you killed enemies, so that wasn't such a big deal, and that's kind of how it would stay. So it was mostly just the Fallout 3 version that was incredibly cracked when it came out. Moving back to Fallout Tactics with our number 5 pick, we have Bonsai. Bonsai is another very weird trait that actually got added to the game. Now this one does seem that it was particularly just added for Herald, but I do like that it was added because of that. So this was a level 12 perk, meaning that you had to be fairly high leveled in tactics, required 50 outdoorsman and 40 science, and this was only a ghoul perk, and it just made it so that fruit could randomly appear in your inventory. That's all it did. Now, fruit wasn't anything crazy. It was a very, like, low-leveled healing item where it could usually heal you between, like, 1 and 5 hit points, which wasn't as good as, like, regular stim packs, or especially once you're getting to, like, level 12, where, like, the super stim packs start becoming more readily accessible, as well as you will likely have somebody on your team that has doctor and first aid so they can heal up your team. But Bonsai was really funny that it seems like it was just added for Herald. Now, Herald has appeared, I think, in the most Fallout games out of any character, where he was in Fallout 1, Fallout 2, Fallout Tactics, and Fallout 3, and he already starts out with this one. He actually starts out with more perks than what he should have by the level that you're getting him, because he's guaranteed to start out with Bonsai, and he's also guaranteed to start out with another perk called Way of the Fruit, where Way of the Fruit also was not crazy. This was a level 6 perk that required 6 charisma, and it just made it so whenever you eat fruit, you get +1 strength, at least for a little while. It made it so you could turn fruit into kind of like a drug for him, which was kind of cool, although it didn't have any downsides, so that was nice. And it made it so you could potentially carry around more things. I just kind of wanted to include this here because Herald is such a weird and interesting character in the Fallout universe, and it's kind of funny that they pretty much based 2 perks just around him. I think Bonsai is definitely the more strange of the two, since anybody can have Way of the Fruit, only ghouls can have Bonsai. Coming in at number 4, we've got Bloody Mess. This has appeared in every single Fallout game so far, but it hasn't always been a perk. It's been a trait in some of the older games, and it's been a perk in the later games. From Fallout 3 onward, it was a perk. From Fallout 1 to Fallout Tactics, it was a trait. And Bloody Mess is surprising for two reasons. So Bloody Mess makes it so you have more graphic explosions. It's always what it's done. In the later games, in Fallout 3 onward, it would also give you a slight damage boost of like 5%. In the old games, it actually didn't do that. Since it was a trait, it had no downsides. But in Fallout 1 specifically, it did change the ending, which was the more surprising part, because if you took Bloody Mess, at the very end of the game, you would be casted out from the vault. Except for if you took Bloody Mess, then when you were casted out from the vault, then you would violently murder the Overseer. That was actually how Fallout 1 could end if you took this trait, which is kind of interesting. On top of that, it also had another kind of well-known bug, glitch, I'm not really sure what to call it, feature, I guess, in Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas for that matter, where sometimes if you would kill somebody and they would splatter, then if you reloaded a save, then that person would kind of reassemble, but still be the corpse of the Bloody Mess, so they would look very disturbing. I think this was usually called the Bloody Princess in Fallout 3. It was very, very creepy overall, and it wasn't meant to be that way, but yeah, Bloody Mess has been strange a couple of times. It also, funny enough, gets your video demonetized usually on YouTube, as opposed to a lot of the other things that I've talked about. This video is probably also going to be demonetized because we're going to be going into some other crazy perks here in a second. Coming in at number 3, we have Implant GRX. Now, this one is kind of crazy just because of how broken it was. This is a New Vegas perk, and this one was added with the Old World Blues DLC, and this one is absolutely insane. So this one you could take twice. It required you to have 8 endurance and to be level 30, so it was a very high leveled perk, but it did make it so you had a non-addictive turbo in your inventory, and you could have 5 of these every day that lasted for 2 seconds, or if you got the second level of this, you could have 10 uses of this that lasted 3 seconds. Which turbo was an absolutely busted chem in New Vegas because it just slowed down time, and this basically was like the Sandevistan from Cyberpunk before Cyberpunk was a thing. It made it so the game was incredibly easy regardless of what build you're using, because you can move fast or you can move at almost normal speed, whereas everything else moves incredibly slow. And on top of this, you could stack the duration buff from this. So normally you'd have 10 uses that last 3 seconds, so you'd have a 30-second timer on this. But it stacked with other things, like Chemist gave you 50% more duration with all chems, and this counted as a chem. It also counted towards Day Tripper, which was just use so many addictive chems, which you could do pretty early on, and that would give you even more duration. So stacking up all of this, you could have basically a full minute where everything was moving substantially slower than you, and you were just being able to attack basically normal speed. Meaning that you could kill basically everything, and you could do this every single day if you'd like. There's no limit on this, and since it's non-addictive, there's no reason to not pop this whenever situations get kind of scary. So yeah, like Implant GRX was the most overpowered perk in New Vegas in my opinion, and it's kind of cool that it would sort of later go on to other games like Cyberpunk with the Sandevistan. Coming in at number 2, we have a Fallout classic. We have Cannibal. Now, Cannibal has existed in basically all the Fallout games, but it's still kind of crazy that Cannibal is in the games. Now, yes, it does kind of make sense that you would have cannibalism in a post-apocalyptic game. That's kind of par for the course. We see that in a lot of different movies, media, other games. Whenever things get crazy in the world, there is always a possibility that people turn to cannibalism. It's just kind of funny that this is associated with a perk and you can willingly engage with it. And they've tied it into Fallout quite a lot throughout the series, where you have like the White Glove Society in New Vegas, where if you're a cannibal, you can more easily talk to people in there. We see this in like Far Harbor and Fallout 4, where there's the cannibals that, you know, attack people. We see it in like Fallout 3. Even in like New Vegas, there was even more versions of this, where you could like eat super mutants and ghouls on top of just being able to eat humans. You could also eat all of the bugs, so you could just go with like a full eating build in New Vegas as well, which is pretty funny. I've never actually done that, but I imagine it would be a interesting run, to say the least. And then coming in on my number 1 craziest perk that we've had in the Fallout universe has been Sutra Master. Now, this is in Fallout 2, and this one you can unlock at level 3. It requires 5 endurance and 5 agility, and this one just makes it so that you're more likely to have sex with other characters throughout the world. So Fallout 2 definitely dived into a whole lot more adult themes than Fallout 1 did, and they did kind of scale that back throughout the games. Like Fallout 2 was definitely the most upfront about this, since you had Sutra Master as a perk, you could get sex appeal as a trait, and if you had sex so many times in Fallout 2, you could also get the title of Sexpert. Like, that was just a reputation title that you could have. So that's pretty funny. There was also basically all of New Reno that allowed you to partake in any of this, which made it so last time I was streaming this game, we skipped a lot of stuff in New Reno for that same reason, because I don't think even with how old Fallout 2 is, YouTube would really appreciate that so much. But yeah, it's just kind of crazy that this was in the Fallout games. Now, again, they did scale it back. You didn't really see this in Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4, although there definitely was still plenty of adult interactions in any of those games, especially like New Vegas. New Vegas was not too afraid of any of this either. I kind of doubt that it's going to be in the later games, with Bethesda becoming like kind of more and more mainstream, the Fallout games being a whole lot more mainstream than they used to be, where Fallout 1 and 2, not really, they were more like cult classic games. Having things like this is probably never going to return in the Fallout universe, but it is kind of funny that they were in the Fallout universe to begin with. But then again, who knows, because I think it would be really awesome to get like CD Projekt Red to do the next Fallout game, and then we could get like so much more everything, and it just basically make it like Fallout but mixed with Cyberpunk, and that would be amazing. That's definitely being very hopeful about the future of Fallout. But tell me your thoughts. What are the craziest perks that you've heard of in the Fallout games, or just kind of the craziest things that have went on in the Fallout games? Thank you guys so very much for watching this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll talk to you next time. Bye bye, everybody.